Oh, what's going on, GameLeap? It's the Cheese back at. I hope you're all having a great season 11. And in today's video, we are going to be revealing the 10 worst champions of patch 11.8, which is now live. So to be ready for it, to know the champions you should probably stay away from, this video is going to be a biggie. And we're still running timestamps on these videos, guys, so you better still be liking them. And one thing I know you're going to like is the GameLeap website. For everything related to league improvement, guys, we have it. Daily uploads from the Cheese and our other challenger players and coaches, champion courses, guides, you name it. So join thousands of your fellow summoners and get signed up. Links, as always, in the description and comment section. Alright, so let's get into it, and starting off the countdown is a champion that got multiple buffs in 11.8, but the thing is, guys, these buffs to Aphelios are very surface level and haven't done really anything to help him survive in this meta and hard carry games. Like, it looks good, right? More lethality at each level, more damage or healing or utility in your ultimate's weapons, but if you get caught once, you're dead. And in late game team fights, even in early game team fights, you have to dodge and evade up to 20 cooldowns the enemy team might throw at you. And don't get me wrong, AD carries have always been like this, but usually there's a way out. In this meta, there is so much damage that you die quicker than I could say pro guards at, and you're just better off picking another marksman who can peel themselves, or even an AP carry. It's true that in the pro scene, Aphelios works, and that's because teams are coordinated and actually game plan with their AD carries in mind, and sometimes around these ADCs. But in solo queue, I mean, we're all well aware of this, teams are as coordinated as the right balance team. Now with Kraken Slayer and Runearn's Hurricane and Infinity Edge, you hit very hard indeed. But what do you do when a Trinity Force Camille just presses R, or a Darius stride breaks into your knees? You get the grey screen. Of course, if you're a master Aphelios player and know all the ins and outs of Targon's marksman, you will be happier, but this doesn't mean you're going to win more games, and hence why Aphelios is in another top 10 worst champions video. Now next up on this list, guys, we have a feline who is having a really rough time, ever since Riot changed tier map really, and this has resulted in Rengar's win rate plummeting into the mid-40s, and most of the Rengar subreddit complaining about the state the Pride Stalker is in. And in 11.8, guys, it's as bad as ever. Your items are weaker, thanks to the 11.7 nerfs to Essence Reaver and Lord Dominic's regards, and your clear speed and overall impact is nothing compared to a Hecarim or Udyr with Gangplank, or a Fiddlesticks with Rocket Belt, or a Kha'Zix with Dustblade who does your job but better as an AD assassin. You see, the thing is, guys, if you're a one-trick or have a lot of experience on any of the champions on this list, you aren't going to be affected as much as others by the state the champions are in, but for novices and even fairly experienced players, Rengar in particular is a massive effort to make work. You have to be precise with your clear and your combos, and you can just choose another jungler who is easy to play and more effective. Even the buff to your W's damage to monsters back in the preseason didn't make up for the loss of Tiamat's active, which was key to your farming and comboing, so Rengar just isn't purring at all this season. Now just ahead of Rengar, guys, we have another champion hovering around the mid-40s in the win rate department, and most of you I'm sure will be surprised by this pick. So you've seen Syndra, picked in pro games no doubt, and she's still a popular pick across the board, but does this mean she is good in solo queue? Of course not, and the fact is she isn't good. Yes, you can one-shot an enemy squishy with little to no magic resist with a lead, but who can't? And sometimes she can be very oppressive to play against, but that's only if you walk into her nerfed queue 10 times before level 3. So the point here, guys, is that Syndra is way less scary than players make her out to be. The multitude of season 10 nerfs to her Q and E are still in the game, and these reduced her Q's damage and increased its mana cost and increased her E cooldown. So her early game oppressiveness isn't as hard to play against, meaning champions like Galio, Nocturne, and most close range and melee picks have an easier time escaping the early game and carrying from level 6 onwards, and she is more vulnerable. As soon as a Syndra uses that E cooldown, it's go time. And then we have this season's meta and item shop. Syndra stood out in the past, guys, because of her tap R to win playstyle. Well, every champion in the game is like that now because of the absurd damage on the Rift, and there are a bunch of new items that give marksmen and bruisers and tanks a chance to evade Syndra's abilities and outplay her, whether that's the movement speed in Chem Tank, or the dash in Gale Force, or even the shield in Shield Bow. It's also important to mention the Seeker's Arm Guard nerf from 11.6, sorry guys I had to, which makes it especially hard for less informed Syndra players to win against Yasuo, Zeds, Talons, Kianas, all of those AD assassins. So 11.8 is for sure a tough one for you Syndra players and your Dark Spheres. Now 11.8 is going to be another tough patch for Bilgewater's Captain Jack Sparrow. So for Gangplank, guys, not much is really changing, and that's the issue. You were in a bad solo queue state before this patch, and it's just going to continue. The Essence Reaver nerf from 11.7 is really big because two of your big sources of damage, your passive and Q, scale with your bonus AD, so much less of a spike in that regard. And then if we think of the other champions in the top lane and their first item spike, like Darius, Camille, Yorick, Wukong, Garen, Aurelia, it's scary. Like others on this list, yes, Gangplank has picked both pros because he brings so much to the team environment, and these pros are exceptional Gangplank players. But not everyone is, and like Rengar, there are other champions you can pick in the top lane who are a lot less mechanically demanding, but reap greater rewards. So I doubt once again many of you GP mains are going to be yarring at the end of your games. Now another Syndra-like champion is coming in at number 6 on the countdown, guys, and this is the only pick on this list getting nerfed this patch. And for Orianna, it's actually significant. So as you can see, when your ball is on you, you aren't getting as much armor or magic resist, and seeing as you max this last, you're going to be sitting on these values until 20 minutes plus. Now if you throw in the Seeker's nerf into the equation as well, well against Zeds, Talons, Yones, Kianas, etc., the laning phase is a lot harder to win and requires a lot more precision and experience. So a bit like Syndra, when your E is on cooldown as Orianna or your ball isn't on you, for gap closing mid laners and the opposing jungler, you are very, very killable. On top of that, Serap's Embrace no longer gives you an active shield, so in the big picture, though you still have a lot of team fighting power and presence, you are a lot squishier, and it's no surprise that Ori has around a 47% win rate at the moment. Now, kicking off the top 5, guys, we have a champion who I'm pretty sure is featured on every Worst Champions video this season, and for another patch in a row, Kalista is one of the worst. So bad that even players in Master and above are winning just 44% of their games. So why is this? Well, the main reason is the new shop. The new Bork, which is without its old active, has been superseded by the Immortal Shield Bow Rush, which gives you pretty much everything you want, right? Attack speed, lifesteal, AD, and a passive that helps you survive for longer. But the thing is, guys, there are other items in the game that straight up counter Kalista, because if you can inhibit her movement, you stop her damage. So items like Prowler's Claw, Stridebreaker, Chem Tank, and even Gale Force on a marksman with red buff, let's say, when that champion jumps onto you and applies their slow, whether it be from their item or their abilities, you can't retaliate. And let's be honest, your support has no clue what peeling is, so you die. So even if you do get first blood with your Halo Blades and strong early game, so what? That Camille, that Zed, that Kha'Zix, that Hecarim with Chem Tank, you are dying regardless of how many kills you have. So 11.8 is another doom patch for Kalista. Now, just ahead of Kalista, guys, we have the most killable champion in the game and the ultimate balancing nightmare. Because if Riot buff Ryze just a little bit, he takes over pro play. And if they nerf him, well, then you have a lot of unhappy Ryze mains. It's very hard to find that happy equilibrium. And because Ryze is sometimes picked, guys, even now in pro matches, Riot are hesitant to buff the Rune Mage despite him having one of the lowest win rates across the board. With no more Rod of Ages, with less armor and Seekers, with no more shield and Seraphs, you are a sitting duck in that mid lane. Yes, your damage is still high, but whose isn't? Being able to do damage is one thing, but being able to deal that damage and survive at the same time is another. The buff to Frozen Heart, which you may have seen as well as an item you used to buy before the new items drop, this changes nothing. 10 more armor isn't going to save you from a late game Camille one-shotting you, so 11.8 is another bad one for Eyes Raise. Now, as we get into the top 3, guys, we have some big champions to reveal, but before we do, one last friendly reminder from the Cheese to head on over to the website when I stop talking, because who doesn't want to improve their Summoner Rift game? You can be one of thousands on the GameLeap website with exclusive access to all our fresh Challenger tier content, so get amongst it, links down below. Okay, so number 3 is a champion that shares the same problems as Kalista and Aphelios. She has enough damage to be able to hard carry, but not the tools to stay alive to deal all her damage, so Xayah mains, sorry to break it to you, but 11.8 is looking just as grim. Yes, your laning phase is better because your E's cooldown and mana cost got lowered at the start of the season, but a 3-minute ultimate cooldown? How does this help you for 5 levels? That's almost as long as Karthus' Requiem. You also have the Essence Reaver nerf to contend with, and the fact that teams don't really care about their ADC until higher elos, so for those of you battling it out on lower levels of play, you might as well just play Jhin or Kai'Sa if you want to win, and it's kind of sad how that's been the case all season. Now, the runner-up to the worst champion of patch 11.8, guys, is the Emperor of Shurima, who has been buffed and nerfed this season according to his presence in pro play, and it's ended up with Azir having the lowest win rate in the entire game. Like Ryze, if you get buffed, you become pick banned by the world's elite, and if you get nerfed so pros don't pick you 24/7, everyone in the solo queue ladder is worse off. And this has been proven by how many of you Azir mains actually comment on these videos when we talk about Azir just being trash. Now, the nerf that was really comical recently was the W nerf, which lowered your soldiers' damage to the point where your auto attacks deal more damage, and even from the right balance team, this was stupefying. If you think about the new Nash's Tooth as well, which gives you no cooldown, well, this is nowhere near as good as it was before the preseason update, and then you have the Seekers and Zhonya's nerf, and the problem with scaling. Like, how many of you Azir mains actually get to your 2-3 major item spike without the game already being over? And even if you do get there right, you have to hope your team plays around you, and it's just a world of stress and hope you can avoid by just picking another mage or mid laner. So 11.8 Azir, guys, you could even put him at number 1, he's that bad. Now, how can you beat Azir to the number 1 spot? Well, this worst champion is a new hash one this season, guys, and hopefully you haven't looked at our timestamps, because I'm going to be giving you a few clues about this champion and reasons as to why they are so bad, and let's see if you can guess who it is. So here we go. So this champion is played mostly as an AD carry, but a lot as a mid laner the higher you climb, and is one of the strongest early game marksmen in the game. Unfortunately though, the core item Essence Reaver was recently nerfed. You may have a lot of early game pressure, but you get outscaled by pretty much everything. You are incredibly squishy and get killed again by pretty much everything. Your short range means you have to get close to Hecarims, Udys, Zeds, Kai'Sas, Kha'Zixes to actually deal damage, and even for the best in the world, winning is hard work, evidenced by your 44% win rate. So some of these problems, guys, are shared by other AD carries, especially the ones on this list, but for Lucian, they are at their peak. And if you have played Lucian in recent times, guys, let me know about your experiences in the comments, and that goes for any of the champions on this list. How bad is it out there? As always, thanks so much for watching, guys. Remember to hit that sub button so you don't miss tomorrow's video. This has been Coach Cheese. Oh, and hit the bell as well. Later.